Hi everyone, welcome to SSGuruCool. In this section today, we will be covering the second part of project management fundamentals. This session is quite important because this forms the fundamental of the entire PMBOK. So my request is, just in case you need reinforcement on certain topics, play back the session you want to. Project lifecycle is a collection of phases that a project goes through from start to completion. Phase is a collection of logically related activities or processes that leads to one or more deliverable. A review at the end of each and every phase to decide the next step is called as a phase scale. A PM process or a project management process is a collection of activities. It has an input, it uses certain tools and technique, and it gives an output. And this entire project management is a sequence of such processes or iteration of certain processes. Process group is the logical group of processes to achieve specific project objectives. There are 5 process groups: initiating process group, planning process group, executing process group, monitoring and controlling process group, and closing process group. Similarly, a knowledge area is an identified area of project management defined by the knowledge required. There are 10 knowledge areas. It starts with integration management, scope management, schedule management, cost management, quality management, resource management, communication management, risk management, procurement management, stakeholder management. Please refer to page number 592 and 593 in the PDF version of PMBOK 6th edition. Let us look at it via a chart. That will help us understand all the terminologies which we discussed in a much better way. The core is the project management. The project management is nothing but a collection of processes. Similar processes which help us achieve a milestone or deliver the deliverables are all grouped together as phase. When we move from one phase to another phase, comes an entity called as phase gate. A phase gate is a checkpoint where we check, is it prudent to move forward, and basically we decide what is our next steps. A project management has a lot of processes. Related processes are grouped into phases. When we move from one phase to another phase, we have something called as a phase gate, wherein we review what was delivered, whether it is prudent to move forward. The characteristics of a process. A process has basically 3 characteristics. It has some inputs, it has some tools and techniques, and it has some output. Basically what it does is, it uses the various tools and techniques of that process onto the input and come out with the outputs that are expected to be delivered by the process. Now this entire umbrella of phases, phase gates, processes, all these things starting from start to completion marks the project life cycle. As we saw earlier, the project life cycle at the end is a set of processes. It becomes very difficult to manage when it is just some 49 processes which will cover the entire project life cycle. So to manage the project life cycle, they brought in the project life cycle processes, or rather, they brought in 2 dimensions. One is the process group and then the knowledge area. By doing this matrix setup or a row column approach, they made managing, following, as well as building a framework for the project management much more easier. So all these processes were moved towards the 2-dimensional approach, and the processes which we had in the project management were distributed among these combinations. Now this concept is very, very important. Each and every process is set for a combination of a process group and a knowledge area. If you can go to the table 1.4 of page number 64 you will see probably the most important slide of them all. You will see the distribution of the 49 processes we have in the 6th edition across the 5 process group and the 10 knowledge areas. Let us now look at how some variables act over the project life cycle. To start with, let us consider the staffing level or how the staffing level varies over the project life cycle. This graph illustrates that. As you can see, the staffing level is at a very low level during the start of the project, and then as the project starts towards the planning and implementations, the staffing level gradually increases. It attains its peak when it is in execution phase, and then once the execution phase is completed, you can see a sudden dip. So it is a gradual increase, attains peak during execution, and then falls suddenly. This is how a staffing level or a cost of a project varies over the life cycle of a project. This curve is also called as a camelback curve. Please note, process groups are not project phases. There is a difference. Let us explain this with an illustration of process groups interactions during the various phases of the project. For example, let us look at a project with 4 phases. In this diagram, each phase is represented in different color. The process in initiation process group generally occur between start to midway of the planning phase. The process in closing group occurs between the first half of execution phase to end of closing phase. The process in planning process group occurs between the second half of the initiation phase to end of execution phase, with the peak occurrence in the planning phase. The processes in execution process group occurs between the second half of the initiation to the end of execution phase, with the peak occurrence in execution phase. The processes in monitoring and control process group occurs right throughout the project life cycle over all phases. Increased occurrences is observed during the planning and execution phase though. A single graph depicting these will look like as shown above. This illustrates that process group interaction are overlapping and how this interaction occurs during the various phases of the project. Let's see how the risk and cost of change behave over the project life cycle. To start with, the risk is, or the unknown is the maximum at the start of the project, and then as the project gets progressively elaborate, more details, more awareness of the requirements, scope, everything comes into picture, and then the risk component comes down. So you can see here the risk is at the highest level during the start of a project, and as we progress in the project life cycle, the risk tends to fall down or come down. The cost of change is a complementary curve. What it does is it behaves exactly the opposite way. The cost of a change, or the total cost involved to accommodate a change, is at the lowest level during the start of a project. But as the project progresses, as we move along the project life cycle, a cost of change becomes more costly, or rather the cost of change becomes higher. So it is low at the start of the project and it is at the highest at the end of the project. As you can see here, these two curves are complementary curves. Now let us look at some definition. The number one definition is stakeholder. The stakeholder definition is pretty loaded. A stakeholder is an individual or a group or an organization who impacts or gets impacted or deems itself or assumes itself to be impacted by an activity, outcome, or by a result of a project. There are various ways to classify stakeholders. There are internal stakeholders, there are external stakeholders. One other way of classification is positively impacted and negatively impacted. One other classification that is possible is positive towards the project, negative towards the project. Some more terminologies. Work performance data. Work performance data is a raw observation or a data of a particular object. Work performance information. Processed work performance data is work performance information. And lastly, work performance report. Electronically or physically generated document on the work performance information becomes a work performance report. For example, the cost is $5 is a work performance data. The cost is $5 as against a plan of $6. So we are $1 lesser than the planned one is a work performance information, and that put in a work performance report or a weekly status reports becomes a work performance report. Project business case. Project business case is an economic feasibility study document validating the benefits of a project. It actually becomes the basis for further project activities, and accountability of this document is with the project sponsor, but the responsibility is with the project manager. A business case has 4 sections. One is the business need, the second is analysis, the third section is the recommendation, and finally it has the evaluation. Now a new terminology has been added to the PMBOK 6th edition. The project benefit management plan is a document for creating, maximizing and sustaining the benefits of a project. This project benefit management plan will be a part of the project management plan, which will be dealt in the integration knowledge area. We are coming to the last slide of the part 2 project management fundamentals. In this we will see about some of the quantitative project success measures. They are net present value, internal rate of return, benefit cost ratio and payback period. Now you really don't have to get into the mathematics of all these equations, but we need to understand what is better, higher or lower. To start with, net present value, the higher is better, the lower is not so desirable. Internal rate of return, the higher is better, the lower is not so good. Payback period, the lesser the payback period, the better the project. And lastly, benefit to cost ratio, higher the benefits to cost ratio, the better the project is. If you want, you can Google about these project success measures for more information, but for the PMP exam it is enough if you just know a little about these and know whether the higher is better or the lower is better. With this we come to the end of project management fundamentals. Please support us through your subscriptions. Thank you for watching this video.